Good evening, everybody. And thank you for joining me for my first visit back, or my first episode back, should I say. I'm Taryn, host of Paranormal Brew, every Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. live on Facebook and YouTube. Right now, I am using my telephone because my laptop decided that it was still on vacation. So I'm currently still trying to wait for this thing to pop up, and then maybe I can switch over. So I'm using my phone. So please be patient with me because I've never had to use my phone before, and I'm confused a little bit with the stuff here. Anyway, my guest tonight, awesome. I met him through Matt Kondracki, and when I invited their team out to Birdsboro in Birdsboro, Pennsylvania, Bird Mansion. And I sat down with John Griffin, his name is, and he and his brother worked on a project. I'm not going to say too much about the project. He can go into all that stuff, but he captivated me with his story, their story, and a quite impressive photo from an experiment that he did with his project that they're working on, which I'm going to let him tell you guys all about this. But it's called Project Apparition Hall. And it took me a while, for some reason, for those three words to click together in the right order in my brain, but it finally has. No offense to John. It's my ADHD brain. It just, the words just weren't clicking right, but it finally has. And I think what he's working on, he truly has something amazing to share with the paranormal community, which is why I asked him to come on my show. So without further ado, I am going to bring John on. I'll have John talk a little bit about himself, and then we'll talk about Project Apparition Hall. So let's see. John.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. All right. So I'm putting a comment up. Hold on. Matt, here we go. And congratulations.
Matt is here. Matt from Dark Echoes Paranormal.
Yes, which is how I met you. As I was saying earlier, we the phone looks better. Keep the phone. So John, I met you through Matt. You're fairly, I would say, fairly new in the paranormal scene of things. I feel like, you're starting to get, your name out there a little bit. At Birdsboro, where I met you, I sat down and you started talking to me about your story. And first of all, your where you come from touched my heart. What is motivating you to continue to do in your project is just it's an amazing story. And then when I say amazing, I don't mean that. I know that there was not too good things that happened, but it's your driving force. So I'm going to shut up. I mean, can we just start at the beginning and just tell people how you got into the paranormal, and let's go into, what you started working on with who and where we're going with this, and explain it to everybody, please.
Absolutely. So, I'll try to keep this as brief as possible for the history part of it. Um, but basically, my brother and I, we went through a haunting together. Um, and
When that
that's
was haunting, with haunting at your house, in your house, or was it, uh, was it somewhere else?
it was my childhood home.
Okay.
It started at age 4. It was more of a angelic being, um, and so that was my first experience. It was a great experience, um, and then the darker portion of the haunting started to come into play.
Okay, wait. What can you go? I know you want to briefly do this, but
Mhm.
we have some time. You know what I mean? So just what was this angelic being like? Like, what happened? Did you and your brother experience it at the same time, or was this something that you guys experienced separately?
So no, at this point he wasn't born.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so this was I don't exactly remember the month. I knew it was when I was age 4. My brother was born when I turned 4. I turned 4 in August on August 4th. He was born in the same year, November 1990. And so at the time, his room was the playroom, and so I looked out the window. At one point, something drew me to the window. I look out and I just saw this light being. It looked like it had wings, but no feathers, and it was just I felt this calming sensation. And the one thing that stood out to me about it was just before it disappeared, there were 3 flashes of light. I distinctly remember that, and then it was gone. Um, that ended up being the first experience, and at the time, because I pretty much went to private school majority of my life, I was going to a what you call it a Christian nursery school. And let me tell you, before this event, you could not get me to sit down. I was the troublemaker, believe it or not. I was the bully, so to speak. I was throwing blocks and toys at kids, and I was the punishment was the thinking chair. I was constantly on that, and so when my mother would show up, she would see that I was sitting on the thinking chair, and it'd be, oh, what did he do now? Um, this happened. This event happened, and after that, the next time I went back, I was back in nursery school for that next year, and I did I just felt different. I felt calmer. I didn't want to bully, and but also anxiety started for me. I didn't want to get in trouble. I was afraid to get in trouble. So I remember going to the teachers and saying, "Hey," well, not in these exact words, you know, uh, I saw this, and I tried to explain it, and they said, you know, uh, "Oh, come over to the table over here." This was their way of bringing me into the Bible study part because you couldn't get me to the table to do the Bible study. I wanted to play with the toys. Um, they said, "Oh, you saw an angel. Come over here. Let's talk about that."
Wow.
So that got me to sit down, and I started learning about God, angels, um, the lighter side of things. Um, my brother was born on November 28th, 1990. His room was then changed, or the playroom was then changed into his bedroom. And what I started noticing is that I never saw that being again. After that, there was another entity that made an appearance, and that's where everything started to take a turn. Um, and I mean, I know I could cover some other things, uh, because this was basically we were there for about 19 years of my life, um, and I went from literally that angelic being to this aggressive male spirit that we called the hunter, um, children spirit, and then also um, something that was far more negative, and that's where it ended, and we ended up leaving. And we didn't leave because of the haunting. My father ended up getting, a better job. He was going into management and such. So we were able to get a better home. We moved out of the neighborhood. The neighborhood was going downhill. So it had nothing to do with the haunting itself. But I can tell you, Jeremy and I, we experienced quite the intense haunting.
Now, did mom and dad experience anything in the house?
I would find out later, more so my mother.
Okay.
My father didn't really believe in this stuff. And maybe he had experienced things, what have you, but it wasn't something that was really talked about. And my mother, I know she had experienced things, but she didn't want to scare Jeremy and I. So it was kind of more of, well, you know, bad dreams and such.
Right, right,
Um, but then because of the depression that I was experiencing, the anxiety, I ended up going to a psychiatrist. Um, and I was told by the psychiatrist I could tell them anything. So I was like, oh, I want to tell them about these disappearing people. Because that's how I saw them. They appeared and they disappeared. So I didn't know the term ghost. And so I brought it up, and he was definitely interested in
right,
all the wrong ways. But
right, right,
and that's where my trust issues came in for that.
right.
Yeah.
So so they were taking it as they obviously they're not looking at this as a spiritual thing or a ghosty thing, or thinking that you are paranoid schizophrenic maybe, or something like that, where you're hearing and seeing voices and people, and here's some medicine.
Exactly. That's and um, I never got diagnosed with with schizophrenia or anything like that. So they had me on some medication for for depression, my obsessive compulsive disorder, that type of stuff, and uh, it helped with some symptoms, but it didn't help with the haunting. And to me, it was like he was making me feel more crazy,
Right,
because it's
right,
like, well, you're not really seeing this stuff. My brother is reporting the same exact thing. How is he seeing the same thing I'm seeing?
right,
There were points where we didn't communicate everything that was happening. So he's talking about this, and I'm like, wait, I've experienced that too.
right,
And so we started talking about it, and we're like, we both can't be crazy. Like, this is what's going on here.
right.
Um, so yeah, it was a difficult life, and the thing that was tough is I started speaking about it to in nursery school. I brought it up, like I said, I didn't know the term ghost. So the first time I saw this male figure disappear in front of me, to me it was a superpower.
Right.
And so I brought that to when I talked about it in school. I told my friends about it. Their friends, or there was a few of my friends who went. They told their parents. That backfired. So they came in and they told me they could not hang out with me anymore,
Well,
um, because basically I was bad.
right,
I'm like, so I had lost friends just like that. Then it, um, and then on top of that, it's what ended up happening is we ended up going to uh now I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
right. So you're
Um,
saying like you lost friends at school and everything like that, and then
yeah, and then from there, some of those people some of the kids transferred to my elementary school. So it's not like I had a fresh slate.
right,
When I went there, these kids, they saw me and they immediately told the others, "Hey, stay away! That guy, that kid's weird." Um,
sorry
so
you had to go through that.
it only got worse, because when my brother showed up, when he went to school, and he went to the same elementary school as I did, he was guilty by association.
Right,
So it made it down to his area, and that just really it hurt knowing that he went through it simply because I opened my mouth. So he fell into depression at a very, very young age.
Right. Now, did you find that when you were going through these things that the hauntings were worse or less? I don't want to say worse in a bad way.
Um,
Were they more or less when you were going through this stuff?
More towards my late teens, it started to go. It started to the experiences started to be far less,
Okay.
but they were changing into my in my more of my just before my teens, going into my early teens. The haunting became very dark.
Hmm.
So there was a huge turning point. We both experienced something that was just beyond our comprehension. Um, and it just felt like, looking back on it now, it felt like it was taking advantage of our emotions.
Okay.
And I know it impacted Jeremy. Um, and so that led all the way up to what happened to him. So it was a long, at least it was a long history. The haunting, there were so many things that happened, so many moments where, I was terrified. Jeremy and I spent 7 years at the one house sleeping in the living room on the couches, because we were afraid of our rooms.
Right.
The experiences were just horrific. My brother, there was one point where I saw a shadow. He had a sliding door for his bedroom, and I remember hearing his sliding door opening. But at this point, he he could walk a bit, but he couldn't walk too much. So, but I remember hearing his door sliding, and I got up out of bed and I looked down the hall, and I saw a shadow figure entering his room.
Okay.
And then you heard this god awful scream come from him. He eventually, there was one night where I woke up and he was in my bed with me, and he did not want to be in his room. He was petrified. At this point, I didn't know what he was seeing. I just knew he was scared and he wanted to be with his brother. So when my parents would go to sleep, there were points where I got up and I would go to his room, and I would bring him back down. Sneak him back so he didn't have to be in there by himself. And so my parents, since they couldn't get him to, once they found out they couldn't get him to go back to his room, they bought us bunk beds. And then I had some experiences that happened in my room. It's just like it just followed us all the way down or to my room. I started leaving the room. I went to the living room. My brother would follow soon after, and then the room was just vacant.
So you guys were kind of like your security blankets. You guys kind of stuck together,
Mhm.
and whatever was happening in your house was happening to the two of you. Mom and dad. Was having experience. Dad didn't believe in it. Now, would mom try to intervene or try to try to say, oh, like you said, they were probably saying you guys are just having dreams or you're just having this, like kind of like trying to make you feel better. You know what I mean? By, alleviating, like, okay, it's just your imagination or it's just dreams or it's just that.
At the time when we were younger, yes. I mean, I can't speak for exactly what both their thought processes were. But as when we got older, um, she became more open about it.
Right.
She admitted to having experiences, and she told me some of the stories that went with it. But at the time, we viewed it as, well, we don't have anyone to talk to.
Sure.
We can't talk to the psychiatrist, psychologist, because, well, it's insanity. Um, it's a bad dream. We bring it to school. We both are getting bullied because we talked about it. Or, well, I talked about it, I should say. Um, the teachers, they said there's no such things as ghosts.
Right.
So I'm like,
Right.
what's going on here? Like, as a child, I'm confused.
Right. Right.
So knowing that Jeremy was going through it, we basically, and this is why anybody who knows me, I'm very protective of my brother. Um, we fought for each other. We went through it together. We worked together to keep each other going.
Right.
So that's where part of that bond came from. That's what brought us together. More so, I should say.
Right. So at what point do you and Jeremy start to say, okay, we want to figure this out. Let's find a way to do this.
Very early, actually. So once especially my mother saw that I was getting really into this, we I started getting books. I was getting into not just ghosts, but UFOs and extraterrestrials. So I was really getting into it. So I had all these toys, books, videos. My first paranormal video was Sightings, the UFO edition.
Mhm.
Um, and I was already looking at this stuff and reading up on it. So I grew up pretty fast. I'll be real. I feel like I didn't really have a childhood,
Okay.
so to speak. Um, at age 16 is when I officially started my first team. Um, and I would say I don't want to really say necessarily it's three separate teams that I've had over the years. They've just evolved. We've had the mission change, so we felt the name didn't match anymore, and it just needed to evolve into its final phase, so to speak. This first one, rookie as it gets, I called it the TPO squad or the Paranormal Officer Squad. And that's when I learned you don't say, or you don't put the in the name, because then I jokingly say, oh, well, it's the Paranormal Officer Squad.
Right.
uh, so 16 is when I could say I officially entered the paranormal field, so to speak.
Okay. So, and then you guys started. I mean, how did you get started with the project Apparition Hall? And the name. How did you come up with the name?
So Project Apparition Hall, it started very early, more so with like my second team, so to speak, or I should say the second phase. See you later. Up there,
I'm
we
here.
had a switch over.
We did have a switch over. Sorry about that. All right, go ahead.
That's okay. So basically, with the next phase of or the second team, so to speak, we wanted to start documenting everybody's favorite thing, statistics. Everybody loves statistics and numbers and trends, and it's exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
uh, I was starting to gather some baseline stuff, learning about how to collect data and such, and I started when I was doing that. There was a paranormal group. Obviously, I'm not going to name names,
That's
but
fair.
uh, I said, I'm going to start collecting data, and because I want to try to figure this out. I've always said numbers tell a story. And the person said to me, he was like, "Well, that's just stupid." It's like, "Well, what's stupid?" And he's like, "All the paranormal activity is random. You can't figure it out." And I was like, "But you said you were trying to find the truth, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, okay, well, you're saying that this can't be solved at all. So didn't you just admittedly just say that the whole mission that you're out for is impossible?
Right.
That's
So, John, when you started out, you weren't like a paranormal enthusiast. You were more like looking for this, like a data and science type stuff
Yes.
right away off the bat. Like you were like, I need to find, I need to prove this to myself.
Correct. I was not an enthusiast.
Okay.
I mean, I absolutely, don't get me wrong.
You
Everything about,
believed because you had all these experiences.
yes, yes. Um, I absolutely love, paranormal is has always been a part of my life. Um, so I love talking about it. I love sharing the stories. But now I want answers. So when I talked, to, um, uh, with that team, they basically said, well, they don't, we shouldn't bother doing it because it's random. And I basically said to them, okay, so, I assume you've tried this before. And they're like, no, why would we? It's just, it's stupid. It won't work. And I was like, so how do you know?
Right.
So I said, don't worry about it. We'll do your job. We'll do the work for you. Um, and to me, it's a challenge accepted. You know what? I could collect data and I could find out there's no trends at all.
Right.
And then, you know what? If they're right, they're right. Okay. That's not what happened. We collected baseline on apparitions, which we weren't getting many. We collected, EVP, related data, broke it all down, you know, and we found some things didn't have any trends and some things did. But if to me, if it's all random, there should be no trends.
Right.
So I came across some trends, and that caused me to dig even deeper. So with the evidence, even though we captured the evidence, it wasn't okay, here's the picture, okay, that's nice, and then we just put it away and admire it. We were actually sitting there and analyzing all the different like apparition pictures, and it started making me ask questions about the apparitions we got. Like there was one apparition we caught the face, the face, and I forgot which. I think it was the left shoulder, but the rest of it didn't appear. And I'm like, well, why? Why did that happen? Um, and when I tried to ask people in the field about it, they were like, well, they didn't have enough energy. I'm like, but that doesn't make sense to me because we have one apparition where it's two hands and a face, um, but no body. I have an apparition with a face and left shoulder and not the rest of it. Sometimes I get the face. There's another case I watched a video where only the hand appears, and I'm like, the whole they don't have enough energy is not a good argument
Mhm.
because, um, yeah, maybe they don't have enough energy to fully manifest, but why did the head and the shoulder form first and not the rest? Why did the two hands and the face, manifest but not the rest? Why was it very specific stuff that manifested, but again, not the rest?
Right.
So it made me wonder about their control. Do they have the ability to control what's going to manifest?
Mhm.
So I'm asking a million and one questions. Jeremy starts coming into this, and he's very science minded, and so he's talking. We're all asking these questions, and at some points we would separate. We would come back together, and we would find out that we're heading down the same path. So we started to decide, aside from the audio stuff, we wanted to try to capture as many apparition photographs as possible. So we started doing that. Um, Jeremy later on into the final phase team, Uini Research, which is the team that's now it's this is the team. Um, Jeremy changed up, uh, exactly. Hey, Big Ben.
He's in Australia. Just so you know,
Oh,
we're in Australia, and a Jing earlier said hello, and a Jing's in Indonesia. So
oh, hi. Wow, all over the place.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anybody that I missed that's saying hi, hi. Like, thank you for joining.
Yes.
Um,
So go ahead.
so
So
the
so Jeremy starts to join you.
yeah, and he was heading down a different direction. So I found that apparitions were occurring in very specific areas. I noticed apparitions were appearing in like I saw like basements, um, kitchens. like these are areas where they were most forming. Not saying that they don't form in like living rooms or anything like that, but this is where I saw the numbers were increasing. Uh, then I started reading stories like the apparitions by the lake, um, and I'm literally seeing all these different trends. And I'm like, what is the common denominator with all these specific locations? And that's where I looked at uh, like humidity. Humidity came into play. I started looking at thunderstorms. I remembered childhood during a massive thunderstorm. Apparitions, we saw apparitions and shadow figures. It was insane back when I was a kid. Um, and so, but Jeremy was looking at light energy as playing a role in this. So he decided he wanted to do long exposure photography. And so when we went from uh, just taking the snapshots, we were averaging out. We were checking out the numbers. The regular flash cameras, just taking random shots, we found that the average for us was 700 to 900 photos before we would get something that was considered unusual.
Okay.
Jeremy started doing long exposure photography, and the average went to 250 to 500. And the apparitions that were caught were, there was one from Wilson Castle. My mind is still blown to this day. Um, and the reason that we chose to do long exposure photography, once we learned, like I learned more about it, Jeremy and I discussed that we want to capture a photo. We want to keep the lens open so more light absorbs. We want to capture a photo and see if we can capture the manifestation process of a spiritual entity. And after, I'd say, thousands of pictures, we caught one. And that one really flung the doors open for us for Project Apparition Hall. At this point, Project Apparition Hall, it was not a code name. The name didn't exist. We had this apparition at Wilson Castle, and you could see there was a light that was a light string that came into frame, and then you actually see where it starts expanding, and then it opens, and then you have the apparition. And with Jeremy's software, he was able to see like when it was coming into frame or if it was leaving, when things happened. So it was absolutely insane. Jeremy started utilizing a green laser, but what he was doing, he was using long exposure, and he was trying to do like a colorant, so he was doing it straight on. And what ended up happening, we noticed that when he did it that way, the numbers plunged. We were getting nothing. Okay. So we were about to give up, and then Jeremy said, Jeremy and I, we talked, and I was like, we shouldn't give up on this. Let's switch this up, because we do it this way. Why not try it another way? Like, we got to try different angles. We can't just give up on this one thing and say, that's it.
Right.
We agreed. We started coming up with our system, how we were going to measure it, how we were going to go about doing this. We talked about bringing fog into the mix. We were talking about what humidity levels we were going to go to based off the numbers that we had, the temperatures. And so we were going to change up the environment, so to speak, basically changing up the temperatures, changing up the humidity. And then, based off the averages that we've gotten, and then we're going to bring in the fog, and we're going to try different color lasers and such. But we were starting with green. And what ended up, unfortunately, before we could do our first experiment on July 7th, 2021, my brother ended up taking his own life.
I'm so sorry for that.
Thank you. We didn't even have a chance yet to test it. So, and I'll be honest, within that first couple weeks after Jeremy did that, I almost threw in the towel.
Yeah.
I was going to hang everything up and just say, I'm done with the paranormal. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
But I snapped out of it. it wasn't until it was a year later, and this is the irony behind this. Um, Wildwood Sanitarium, which is like our home away from home. Um,
We
oh,
love the Peaches love Wildwood Sanitarium. We go to we love Wildwood Sanitarium. So I feel you on that.
oh yeah, home away from home. Um, and thank you, Ben. I saw the comment. Um, uh, they decided to put on an event called There Is Hope, and it was an event, a suicide awareness event that was dedicated for my brother as well as Lori, one of the owners of Wildwood, for her brother who did the same thing. Uh, when we were doing the event, we were hosting we were doing the event there. Uh, it just um, this was the most emotional thing that happened, and this gets to the picture that you were talking about. Um, we were trying to do it from two different angles. I decided for the first time we're going to try what Jeremy and I were talking about. Um, I was at one angle taking pictures, and then my friend from another paranormal team, Rick Perry, he was taking pictures from another angle. And we had because it was an event, we had people split up, and then when the segment's over, we all flip. The next group comes up. Rick Perry, I'm so glad I agreed to this. Rick Perry, after doing the first set of photos, he said, John, could I stay up here with you and take more photos? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I love Rick Perry. Love him.
Yeah.
Like, so, the other group, they went down to the other area. The next group came up. So we did the experiment, and all of a sudden, like we got done. I go downstairs. My parents were actually at this event. They were sitting on the first floor. I came down in the dining room on the first floor, and somebody came up to me. I don't think it was Rick. I forgot who it was, but somebody came up to me with Rick Perry's phone that he was taking pictures with. He put the phone down in front of me and said, John, you've got to see this. And I look over, and I immediately, clear as day, I see Jeremy in his lab coat, sitting across from where Rick was taking pictures from. And in comparison to where I was, he was only probably about 5 or 6 feet away from me.
And I just want to intervene here because when I was talking to you about this at Birdsboro and you told me the story,
Mhm.
you first showed me the picture of Jeremy, and then you showed no. I first saw the Apparition Hall picture,
Mhm.
and then you showed me the picture, a real picture of Jeremy.
Yes.
I am going to tell you all, if anybody knows me, I don't bullshit and I don't say things or something but the resemblance of what I saw in this photo to Jeremy is uncanny. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like when I saw, he showed me the pictures and my mouth just dropped open. And I said, that's your brother. He said, that's my brother. I said, that's your brother. Like he was there in that photo. I, I wish I wish there was a way to share it so people could see. I don't know if you have it on your website or your Facebook page or something like that. Like because it's remarkable. It's one of the things that when you told me your story and what happened and a year to the date and how you guys are doing this and you're continuing this project that you and your brother were working on, and then for him to show up in one of these photos, I mean, I'm sold on this whole thing. Like it takes a lot for me to um, believe in photos, and you shared that, and and then shared the picture of what your brother looks like, and I said, "Holy shit!"
And that day, like, and I'll never forget it. I remember looking at the picture, And when I saw him, I knew I couldn't hold it in anymore.
Right.
There were a bunch of people in the room because we were taking a break. I turned to my mother who was behind me, and I handed her the phone. I said, "We got Jeremy." And I remember running out of Wildwood Sanitarium, and I went to the front of the building. I literally fell to my knees and just
Yeah.
started sobbing.
Yeah.
Um, and I remembered saying, "Oh, the experiment worked," and everybody's telling me the experiment worked, and I'm like, so the scientist version of me would come out days later. This one was very personal. Finally, it clicked into place. Um, it finally clicked into place. It's like, John, how do you know the experiment worked? You got one photo. How do you know that anything that you did this?
Right.
So that's where my science mind kicked back into gear and was like, we've got to do this again. We've got to replicate this. And um, and we started doing different experiments and trying to see if we could replicate the results. The problem is we didn't have a standard that was fully set at the time. Um, so we had cases where it wasn't working that well. We had cases where we got some things, but it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't until last year where things just skyrocketed. We finally figured out what we needed to do just right to start getting more results. We now got the pictures down to 75 to 100 photos before we get something unusual. So when you really compare from our starting point of highest 900 down to 75 to 100, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
Um, Now, of course, I want to get it where we have a picture, every few pictures, if not every picture, um, and video as well, because there is going to be a video segment to this. But that leads into the name. Originally, it was called the Manifestation Project. That was more of its code name. Then I changed it to Project Apparition Hallway. Then I took the way out and put Project Apparition Hall. And the reason I did project or chose Project Apparition Hall is because of the device, the type of thing that we're trying to make. The fog, the lasers, the humidity, the temperature, the different experiments that we're doing right now are all part of how we're planning to the different elements we plan to put together to design the hall. So, and it's going to be more of a shape of a hall. Um, and within this hall, it's going to have things in there that are going to both measure specific activity in specific places that's more confined, and we're trying to put things in there that may assist them in being able to manifest better. So that's where people see us doing all these different experiments on these videos, and whether it be sound and lighting and humidity, all these different types of things. We're bringing that all together. We're determining what works best before we build the first prototype. It's going to go through a 4-phase development. Phase 4 is basically, we're hoping, and it may not be within my lifetime, is phase 4 is the final thing. We've got it done. We've mastered it. It works. We're in phase 1 right now. So we're considering this very new. The results are very new.
Who's working on it with you now? Like who's assisting you now with this?
So my team in general, Uini Research, we are working on it together. The second in command for Uini Research and my good friend Katie Peak, we're working very closely on it. But we also bring in members from outside in the paranormal community as well. Our team has teamed up before with scientists from the field prior to Project Apparition Hall. I also presented information to another or a professor from a college. And so we're going to be bringing this more to the scientific community as well and starting to get them in. We're very specific on how we're bringing people in because this requires a neutral-minded approach. But we want to get results internally first, the statistics, the trends. We do so many reports. Like one of my reports is almost about 50 pages long just for one report for 3 months. And we want to have the documentation ready so that when we bring it to specific people and we're looking for help, they will see the credibility behind it.
Right. And the hard work. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, so we've been studying other things. I've had people that they help train me with statistics, and data collection and trend identification. I've had uh, I've back with my previous job. I've dealt with people with the FBI Secret Service. I've worked with past people who investigated for the police. So I take all those skills and I bring it into this. Um, and then I've dealt with professors and such, and they helped with developing, scientific measurements on how you would do this. And then on top of the videos and all that, all the studying that I've done to try to keep it as neutral as possible. Um, but I do got a good group of people who are behind the scenes who are helping with this. Um, for primary lead, it's Katie and I who are leading the project.
That's awesome. I just want to just share really quick. Big Ben said that he can relate that his mate's grandpa passed a few years ago, and he sent me this pic his nana sent him on their security camera. An apparition of his grandpa was clearly there. He was good friends with his grandpa. To be honest, it was the clearest apparition in a picture I've ever seen. And he said he still has that picture. I think he was just, trying to say, yeah. And I got to tell you, I literally saw the pictures, and I actually participated. We did Project Apparition Hall at Birdsboro, and it was it was just fascinating to see. Even though I don't have a scientific bone in my body, it's all mumbo jumbo to me, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just because I saw you had like this thing that had different things on.
Oh, the spare part. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you had that, and then I'm taking pictures, and somebody else is doing the fog machine, and then we had the laser going, and it's like do just taking the pictures. I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about it because it was such a cool thing to witness and to be a part of, and to know that that's only going to get better and grow and be, its own apparatus, if you will.
And the other cool thing too that I know we experienced is that when we turned on the spirit box, they were actually responding. Like, and I noticed that when we were bringing this to sites, that we were getting responses saying, like whether they say, or the fog, laser, like they were acknowledging what was happening.
Right.
And it seemed like it attracted and brought the activity up. And we have advanced on another front. Because another unorthodox way, because this is the paranormal, we have to think outside the box too. When I'm at Wildwood, I mean, the spirits there are just so amazing. They were helping. I was actually asking them questions and seeing about, can you tell me from your end? Are there things that you have to do to manifest? Are there specific colors that we should try? What should we do? I'm asking them for advice.
Right.
And I have a bunch of responses of them telling me things that work and things that don't work. And then we would test them just to see. And this caused us to develop what was called a charging station. We're doing we have a humidifier, we have one or two blue lights, we turn it to a certain level, and apparently that helps them. Then when it's time for the research session, so to speak, we either put that in another room, or we shut it off.
Right.
So and the other things that we found that we're doing is we're actually able to we've been able to start creating a profile of different spirits. Like in Wildwood, for instance, we brought up a flat screen TV, brought up some pictures that we had caught from Project Apparition Hall, and if they were clear enough, we asked, hey, can you tell us who this is? We actually had spirits that over the spirit box that were identifying themselves, saying it's me. And then, if they don't give us a name in time, we'll ask for a name. And then now we're creating these documents where we have the picture and we have a name, and then we're documenting their type of activity and their responses. We have their voice to go with it, so we have a link for their voice. Um, and now, so we can hear what they sound like, and we have an image to go with it.
Right.
Obviously, this is going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of confirming. We're not just going to say yes 100%. This is, it is what it is. But this has really changed the way that we've been thinking and how we've been approaching things. And just recently, within the past month, we did Project Apparition Hall at a residence for the first time ever.
Oh wow.
And the crazy part is that their daughter, both their daughter or the daughters, were saying what they had seen in Project Apparition Hall. We didn't get every apparition that they saw. We caught 2 of them. And so this is where I had to ask the question of what happens from here. If this is what this looks like now, and we're thinking about down the road, how is this going to affect, psychology, diagnosis, laws, the government involvement? There's just so much that there could be this huge impact in regards to paranormal research in general. And so for these children who say they're seeing something, and then I end up catching it in the photos, it's like, oh my goodness.
So why do you think the fog and the laser and all this stuff, why do you think that helps to be able to capture these apparitions?
So we're looking at different like molecules and stuff that may be in the environment. We're trying to figure out how they put themselves together, because we can argue the energy, but saying that they're just made out of energy doesn't explain anything. So what we're looking at is we're trying to see if there's certain chemicals or things that are in the environment that they're essentially utilizing to kind of pull themselves together. The other aspect is that when if they're light energy, maybe the humidity or whatever helps them to amplify. We have a thing that a hypothesis that we're working on called the burst. The reason so for anybody who doesn't know it, and you know this from doing the experiment, we take anywhere from 1 to 2 photos per second. And so when we get an apparition, a lot of times, majority of the time, the apparition only appears in 1 photo. And then the rest of the photos, there's nothing. So if you think about it, in 1.5 seconds, you've taken about 3 pictures. And during that time, only one of them is this apparition is here, and then they're gone.
Right.
So we're also measuring the time in which they appear and disappear. So that's adding more. That's adding more into this. The fog has actually helped with the laser. If you angle it right, because we create, as you saw, we create a wall,
right,
so to speak.
Right.
So the other part of that is, does it help if they walk through it? Do they need to walk through it for us to see the image of them? Is it something about reflection? We don't fully know yet. So, so far we've caught multiple different types of apparitions where some are behind the laser and fog, some are walking through it, and then some are just in front of it. And so we're currently analyzing that right now. It may end up getting to the point that we may not need the fog, but we haven't determined that yet.
Right. Now, do you share these findings like on your on social media, or are you kind of just so that people can see? I would love for everybody to see Jeremy. I mean, to me, that is just it's such a fantastic capture. For me, when I saw that was me. It felt like he was saying, "Thank you for continuing this. I want you to continue doing this for us. This is, I feel like that was like a boost of motivation for you from him.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like to add to that, he was more of he was also saying that you're right, like we were right. So continue the path. For the evidence, we have some pictures on our Project Apparition Hall Facebook page. We have not we haven't released a lot of, because believe me, we have a whole stack of them. We've taken thousands upon thousands of photos at this point. We're working on putting it in reports. So, it's funny because I brought this up on a vodcast last night. That we tend to keep some of a lot of our results internal, and the reason for that is we want to present it appropriately to the public.
Right.
And what I mean by this is not so much that. So the way I said it is that if we were to show that, if we present it as, look, there's apparitions, there's life after death, right? And people start seeing these different things, and we're coming out and say, depending on what we say and how we present it, the thought that goes in the back of my mind is, will, for instance, the suicide rate go up? Oh, look, there's an afterlife. Why should I be here? And I think part of that might be because of the whole Jeremy thing,
Right.
but at the same time, it's like people want to know if there's life after death, and if people aren't afraid, if people, for instance, I'll use Jeremy as a perfect example. Jeremy, by the time he did what he did, he was convinced without a reasonable doubt that the spirit realm existed. That when he dies, he was going to continue on.
Okay.
That haunts me a bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, that haunts me. So for him, he believed that when he pulled the trigger, it was like, see you soon. And that's why in his note, the last line he said in there was, John will be in touch, I promise. And I know how Jeremy and I talk. We have a way of speaking. We can read into things that we say. It wasn't just a promise that, hey, we're going to talk again. It was, I know when I pull the trigger, we'll still be able to communicate.
And aside from that picture, does he ever communicate with you, or is he?
Oh yes, he is like, I still say that the Griffin brothers live on, and the reason I also say that is not just a memory, but because he has been helping. He's come through on spirit boxes numerous times. He's come through EVPs. I've seen him with my own eyes. My parents have seen him. And then on top of that, we actually have 2 other photos of Jeremy. Not as good as the one that you saw. Nowhere near that. But we do have 2 other photos of Jeremy. So we know he's helping. And I'm grateful for
it. This reminds me of, I don't know, are you familiar with Gary Golka?
The name sounds familiar.
So he made the Melmeter, named it after his daughter Melissa, who died in a car accident.
Okay.
He's an engineer, and he didn't want to believe that was it. That he was never going to be able to talk to her again. Mm-hmm. So he designed the Melmeter in order to try to communicate with her. Mm-hmm. And eventually he did. I mean, there's a lot of things that, that he has captured that, she has communicated with him.
Yeah.
So this is what that kind of reminds me of, something that you're doing, and Jeremy is kind of, helping you with the process.
Yeah, I do actually, now that you say that, I do recall that story.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that I'm kind of in a similar situation.
She's not a bad person for you to try to reach out to if you want some help, because like I said, he's an engineer, and he's, you guys have a similar, I mean, she died in a car accident. I mean, that part of it's a little different. However, the motivation behind what you're doing is the same.
Yeah, and I'm always open to working with people. That's actually why the I have the paranormal team name is Uini Research. It's you and I research together.
Yeah.
So I'm very adamant about that, and I love working with other people because who knows, one of us may have the piece of the puzzle of one of each other's research, and then boom, the door just flings open.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I want to take these last couple of minutes for you just to, maybe just tell people where they can find you. And you, I really, if do you have is one of the pictures up on your page? Is it of Jeremy, the one that you let me see?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's more of in a slide.
Okay.
Um, I also do have it on my profile page as well. Um, but yeah, there's you want I could give like the locations of where they can find me if you want.
Yeah. Go
Uh,
ahead.
so aside, I post most of my stuff on my personal account, so you can find me John Griffin II, and follow or shoot me a friend request. I post a lot of stuff there. Project Apparition Hall. When you type it in, make sure to add the hall in because apparently there's another page called Project Apparition. Not the same thing. Um, and on top of that, uh, there's also the show that we were talking about. Season 2, I'll be a main cast member for Dark Echoes Paranormal, so keep an eye out for that.
And
And
it's at Birdsboro.
oh yeah, um, and I've got two other things that are coming. So, and this will be a good one too because I'm going to be putting results in it. I do have a Project Apparition Hall book that will be coming out later this year. It originally was titled Paranormal Puzzle: The Illuminated Loners, but I've now switched it. And we just finished the pilot episode of Project Apparition Hall for the series, and the first people, the first network that has picked it up is Paraflix, and that will be coming out towards the beginning of next month.
Awesome. Very good. All your hard work is paying off. I love it. And I'm so happy for you. And I'm happy that you came on because I love to promote people and get it out there. I really think that, you have a lot of work ahead of you, but I really do think that, you are dedicating your time and your energy, putting something positive back into the field. You know what I mean? It's, we need that now more than ever because of all the drama that goes on. We need more people, whether you believe in this or not. You want people to do it. This is what we used to do before all the drama and everything. Like we used to just research. We used to just do our thing and hunt ghosts and do whatever. And nobody judged anybody for what they did. And just let people do what they had to do. And who knows, you may you may break the code and open up a whole nother world.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to see the paranormal field succeed. I really do. And uh, and speaking of which, the other thing too, for the first time ever, I am going to be presenting uh, more of the science. It's going to be a science presentation for Project Apparition Hall for the Paranormal Research Symposium. That's this Saturday. Uh, and that's held by the Association of Paranormal Studies. So if you go to their page, you can find that as well. And there's I heard a couple days ago there were 24 tickets left.
And
Um,
that's in my favorite place in the universe.
Get Gettysburg, PA, and I have to say I'm admittedly embarrassed about this. 23 years in the paranormal field as of this month, and this is the first time I'm ever going to be in Gettysburg.
You're gonna fall in love with it. I love it more than I went before I was into the paranormal, and I fell in love with it. And then after I got into the paranormal, it just added something to it. So, whether you're into the paranormal or not, Gettysburg is definitely the best place in the universe. I'm going to tell you that.
I'm super excited to see what it's all about.
I hope you get some time to go through the park and go through town and stuff, and you're just not stuck. You know what I mean at the event. I hope you get to go through town because you don't want to go there and not see the battlefield and not see the town because it's like it's amazing.
Yeah, especially well for me, it's about a I think it's a 5.5 hour drive without stops.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Take advantage of your time there for sure. Big Ben says, cheers, John. Very insightful and deep convo, brother. Thank you for sharing, mate.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And I thank you, John, for coming on and sharing your story. I know that some of that's tough to talk about, um, but I appreciate it. And it's what's built you, and it's what drives you, and it's what motivates you. And I love Jeremy for that. I love that Jeremy's still helping you, even though he's not physically here.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on. It's always I know we had a lot of fun talking the last time, so I was definitely looking forward to jumping on the show with you.
Yeah.
Uh,
And everybody out there that's watching, thank you so much for watching. And I always ask this of you guys, to share this show out, not for me and not for Paranormal Brew, but share it out for my guests and what they're trying to do in the field. Share it for John, share it for Project Apparition Hall. You like how that just rolls off my tongue now? I could never get it before. I never could get, my brain would never let me say those three words in the way they were supposed to be said.
I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, what order did you put these words in? I'm like thinking of all these different.
I never could. It never came out. Project Apparition Hall. I could never say it. I'd be like, what is that? And it wouldn't come out that way. I don't know why, but I finally got it. Thank you, Ajing. Again, Ajing is in Indonesia, so she's checking in. Always love. Please, everybody,
Thank
please
you.
share this out. I really would love to get this out for John and his project, what he's working on. It's amazing. Go check his page out. Go see the picture that I saw. That, I mean, you will definitely see what I'm talking about. It was when he showed me these pictures, I couldn't believe my eyes. Honestly, I could not believe it. And it's also very touching, and you can't help but, what it's like. I mean, I had a very good friend take his own life, and he was 34 years old. And, it's such a hard thing to go through. And, to see that you're taking that and turning it into something positive, or trying to make it into something positive, is I commend you. It's so respectful. I give you so much respect for that, because you got to be a strong person in order to do that. Like you said, you could have, shut it down and said F the paranormal and I want nothing to do with it. Instead, you're like, nope, I want to continue this journey. I have to continue this journey for my brother, for the people.
I mean, if I could just add one more thing to that,
Yeah.
the just to put it in perspective of how dedicated I am to this stuff, because I really do. I care about the paranormal field. I know Jeremy, he cared about the paranormal field. He was disheartened to see how people, fight. Um, instead of focusing on, the truth and trying to pursue advancements, it hurt him. I'll be honest. It hurt both of us. But so the Project Apparition Hall pilot episode that I mentioned, aside from that, of course, when we're doing that pilot episode, it's also advancing the research. So it's a story about that. Um, and I made a promise to my brother during his eulogy that his legacy lives on, his work lives on, and we always had a thing that we would say, "I promise," and when we promise, we keep it going. Um, we had a fundraiser. I mean, the fundraiser is still open, but we were pushing it. We didn't succeed for getting what we needed to film the entire season one. We got to film a episode and a half, and so the second episode we can't finish right now. But for the pilot episode, because it was about Jeremy's story, and I really wanted to show how the great work that he did. I want him to see from the other side how much his work truly mattered, because I'll tell you, he did not believe after a certain point. People did. He was like, people don't care. People just don't care, and it hurt him, and I know that sent him into a spiral. I uh, I funded the rest of it, naturally, and I thank everybody who helped with the pilot episode. There was a when and it was Dark Echo Productions, Matt and Scarlett, who helped film the episode,
Yeah.
and it turned out that when I got the files, my computer could not handle it, so it crashed the computer because it was
Right.
such high quality. So I had to go between New York and Connecticut back and forth about 3 to 4 times a week, um, spending thousands of gas over a course of 3 months to edit this pilot episode, and to the point that I actually ran out of money, and I ended up selling my second car. I inherited Jeremy's car because my parents and we wanted to keep it in the family, and I wanted to pay my parents to help them with the funeral costs. So that was my way of doing it. So I threw myself into debt to help my parents. Um, and so, but this episode needed to get done. My hope is that it's going to help people in the paranormal field, that uh, that it will inspire. So I knew this had to get done, and it was going to get done regardless. So I ended up selling my SUV. I still have my brother's car, and I was able to get the episode done. When I make a promise, when I say I promise, I fulfill it.
And I'm sorry, I'm giving somebody the names of your pages.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Somebody's asking, and I see that of you. Project Apparition Hall. There we go. Okay. He's on YouTube. I can't get the link, because I'm unable to get the link. But if you go to he's on Facebook, right? You're not on YouTube. It's just Facebook.
I mean, we have YouTube channels, but I'm not really posting anything. So Facebook would be the best bet.
Okay, Facebook is the best bet.
Yeah.
Well, you have John Griffin II or Project Apparition Hall. Those are on Facebook. Big Ben, I don't know if you have Facebook. I usually only see him on YouTube. But
For YouTube, again, I don't really post much there, but we have the Path to Communication. That's the most recent channel that I have up.
path, oops, to communication, right? You said?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm just putting that up. That's YouTube.
Yep.
Okay. All right. John, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Oh, Facebook, no probs. I will get onto that. All right. Awesome, Big Ben. John, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story again. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody that was watching and listening, and, and for anybody that shared this, I greatly appreciate it. Not for my guests, not for Paranormal Brew, but for Project Apparition Hall, for John. And I look forward to have you on again in the future when you have gone a little bit further in your research and have developed a little bit more. And maybe one time we can actually, give a demonstration. Uh, you know what I mean? We can do a live demonstration on what Project Apparition entails. Maybe during an investigation that you're doing or something like that. I can bring you on and people can see what you do during an investigation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I would love to share that with people because seeing it is all different than listening to how they do it. I mean, I was honored to be a part of it. I thought it was really cool. So hopefully that'll be in the Birdsboro episode. I'm not sure, but hopefully it'll be in that episode. But I enjoyed doing it.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working with you.
Thank you. Likewise, likewise. And again, I'll have you on anytime. So if you ever want to come on and you want to either promote your book or promote your, if you got new stuff happening with Project Apparition Hall, Paranormal Brew you're always welcome.
I appreciate it. The book I'm aiming for this year. So I mean, maybe once I get the book in hand.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, and I will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please, again, please share the show out for John and Project Apparition Hall. And again, sweet dreams. I will see you guys next week. Next week, I have a group. I have the group Stay Haunted coming on. That should be awesome. And where we go from there, I don't know because I don't have anybody booked after that. So maybe I might just have a night where it's just me. I've never really done that before, so maybe it'll just me just talking. Um, anyway, thank you guys, and until next time, sweet dreams.